MMO Publisher says Intel is selling defective chips.
Yeah.
Alderon Games says that it is switching its Intel 13th and 14th gen servers. And we touched on this last week when I hadn't watched the Level 1 Tech's video yet, but we did talk about how Wendell from Level 1 Techs has been talking about how Intel's 13th and 14th gen chips are having some serious problems. Well, Alderon says that they are switching them out for AMD following significant stability issues. According to Alderon, their servers have had extremely high failure rates, which is overwhelmingly due to errors from Intel chips. And I can hear you already asking, why the devil is Alderon Games using Core i7s and Core i9s for servers? That's not as crazy as you might think. It's actually, I still, while Intel and AMD have at times certainly, and especially NVIDIA, have certainly put pressure on bare bones chassis manufacturers and solutions providers to steer their clients toward Xeon and Epic and I don't know, what's NVIDIA's branding even? It's not Tesla anymore, but whatever. What's their branding for their GPUs these days? Grid, who knows?
Like
but their enterprise solutions, while they certainly steer them, sometimes those enterprise solutions don't necessarily make the most sense. And in the case of something like a game server, where performance and value might be more meaningful to you than running ECC memory for the utmost instability, it could make sense to deploy just like one use of game servers, or even I think I've seen ones that are like
just like more of
like
them.
four in a 1U, or we looked at, oh man, what was that cool one that we looked at from Supermicro? It was about a year ago, but it was a bunch of just like Ryzens in little like blades. Super cool. Anyway, the point is that it is way more common than you would think to run desktop chips. So let's have a look at what the breakdown is here. In Alderon's testing, the chips initially worked fine, but later deteriorated, failing at a rate of nearly 100%. And you can see here which models seem to be the most likely to be affected, although we don't know what exactly the mix is of their deployment. So the Ks, and this is already something that has been touched on, Ks seem to be experiencing the worst failures. The lower core count, lower clocked SKUs seem to be impacted less. And according to Level 1 Techs, this looks like hardware. We talked about this last week about, Intel could need to do a recall here if they can't figure out how to fix this. Good Lord, what would this look like?
Yeah, no
I don't think in my time as a PC enthusiast, I have seen such a
CPUs are always rock solid.
Well, here's the exception that proves the rule.
Yeah.
Well, no, there's been bad stuff. I thought Coppermine was a huge disaster.
What was that?
Pentium 3. I mean,
That's what I'm saying. In pretty much...
that was before I was in high school. That's 25 years ago.
It's been a decent assumption that your CPU is not really the problem for a long time. Crazy.
Absolutely freaking wild, man. I have absolutely no idea what this would look like, because you got to go a step beyond just, Intel takes the chips back, right? Like that's a recall, right? No. What are they going to issue people in exchange? What are they going to give them now?
Is there an inherent flaw?
There's okay. Let's look at it from a couple of different angles.
They can't recall the car, replace the airbag, and give you the car back.
Yeah, I've got my. Let's say I'm an end user customer. Okay, I bought a motherboard from Gigabyte and some Crucial memory and a Seasonic power supply. I've got my computer here, right? And I got this bad Intel chip, and I need a new one. Intel, here you go. You got my chip. Well, now what? They send back a fixed one? Well, no. This is the Intel's R&D teams, okay, are working on CPUs that are coming out next year, the year after, and the year after that. That gives you some idea of how long you're working on a chip before it ever sees the light of day. Just the spin up time. If you watched our Intel Fab Tour, the spin up time from, okay, we've got the design finished and now, at least in principle, and now we need a physical one in order to try to power it on, is, I forget if it was weeks or months, but it's a long flipping time because all of the different steps that are required to manufacture a modern processor. For Intel to fix this in hardware, they would, this is enormously costly. They would have to pull teams that are working on future products and get them essentially back on the CPU design of 13th and 14th gen. And even if they did that yesterday, it would be months before they would have a single unit to ship to anyone. And when you consider how much of their manufacturing capacity would have been used over the last couple of years to ship all the chips that they had, it would be months, maybe even a year plus before they could actually manufacture enough of these bloody things in order to issue all the fixes. So in the meantime, imagine you are not a gamer who just bought one chip and put it in your computer and are kind of going, where the devil's my chip? Now imagine that you're a customer like the United States government or Dell. Your expectations are now completely different, and there's a huge cost to you, especially if you're someone like an OEM, like a Dell or Lenovo or HP. The cost to you of these systems that you've designed around this now defective part is monumental. Good luck, Intel.
It's going to be rough.
Yep. Intel is currently working on a fix for the eTVB bug it says contributed to the instability, but there's no indication that the company has a fix for the root problem, says the last of our notes. Well, sheesh. Cool. I mean, I guess, yeah, one option is they can just keep sending you more of them as long as you're under warranty, and then hope that everyone's warranty expires at some point, and that this doesn't leave too bad of a stain on their brand. I think
it's a pretty big stain on their brand.
I think that's probably more realistic. And the stain on the brand to consumers is not the one that I'm worried about if I'm Intel. Like, yeah, sure, whatever.
The amount of cares for consumer sales right now has never been
that, and like gamers already mostly kind of hate them anyway. So
yeah,
realistically, what difference does it make?
Yeah.
It's the brand, it's the reputational damage with the Dells and the HPs and the large institutions that I'm really worried about, because a big part of why Intel has managed to maintain the kind of, for example, server market share that they have is because you never get fired for buying Intel.
Oof.
Not because their performance has necessarily been better. There are other reasons. Intel makes investments that AMD traditionally hasn't because they haven't had the resources for it in terms of deployments and management and stuff like that. But a big part of it is you don't get fired for buying Intel. And now you might.